What if I told you that one of humanity's oldest written records describes something that modern physics is only now beginning to understand, and that this understanding changes everything about what we thought we knew about our place in the universe? In a museum vault in Paris, there exists a Sumerian clay tablet from around 2100 BCE, over 4,000 years old. On its surface are carved words describing an invisible structure that surrounds our entire solar system, a barrier, a boundary. But here's what makes this story different from what you've probably heard before. This tablet wasn't written by mystical priests trying to describe something they couldn't understand. It was written by the most scientifically advanced civilization of its time. And the reason they documented this wall has absolutely nothing to do with what everyone thinks it was built for. Let me take you back to 2100 BCE in Ur, the greatest city of the Sumerian world. By this time, the Sumerians had already invented mathematics, astronomy, irrigation systems, and written language itself. They weren't primitive peoples gazing at the sky in wonder. They were empiricists, observers, record keepers with a systematic approach to understanding the cosmos. Their scribal schools rivaled any university you might find in the modern world. These were institutions where knowledge was preserved, tested, and refined across generations. The tablet in question, catalogued as AO6020 in the Louvre, was discovered as part of a collection of cosmological texts from the Ur-3 period. For decades, it was largely ignored by scholars. The reverse side contained what experts called a fragmentary cosmological passage of uncertain interpretation. In other words, it was written off. Nobody paid close attention to it until digital imaging technology made it possible to see the text with unprecedented clarity. When that happened, something remarkable emerged from the translation. The Sumerians described the universe as having three distinct layers: An, the sky above; Ki, the earth below; and between them, encircling the entire cosmos like an invisible sphere, a structure they called Badgal Anki, the great wall of heaven-earth. Not a wall built on the earth, not a wall somewhere in the sky, but a spherical boundary that encompasses everything, a cosmic envelope. Now, here's where it gets interesting. The text doesn't just describe the wall, it describes it with specificity. Physical specificity. It's made of a substance called Zabar Anna, which translates to the bronze of heaven, but not the bronze that Sumerian craftsmen worked with. This was something else entirely, a divine material described as harder than stone, transparent to light but impenetrable to flesh, something you could see through but could never pass through. The wall has thickness, a measured thickness, approximately 120 kilometers wide, according to the Sumerian measurement system. That's not metaphorical language. That's engineering documentation. But here's the crucial detail that changes everything about how we should interpret this tablet. The Sumerians explicitly stated that the wall was not always there. It was constructed, built, installed, and more importantly, they documented the reason it was built, but not the reason everyone assumes. The standard interpretation of this tablet suggests the wall was built to protect those inside, a defensive structure, a barrier to keep threats at bay. But that's reading our own anxieties into an ancient text. The Sumerian language says something much more specific. The wall was built to contain something, to keep something in, not to keep threats out. To understand what this really means, we need to understand Sumerian cosmology in a way that modern archaeology hasn't fully explored. The Sumerians didn't separate the physical from the non-physical the way we do. When they described something as real, they meant it had measurable properties: weight, dimension, substance. They were describing something tangible. Think about this from their perspective. They observed the stars, they tracked the planets. They understood that objects in the sky behaved according to consistent principles they could predict and document. They knew the sun moved across the sky in a pattern. They knew the moon had phases. They understood that some points of light moved differently than others. And they knew all of this happened within a boundary, a limit, a wall. In the modern era, we discovered something that validated the Sumerian observation in ways that would have seemed like science fiction just 60 years ago. In 1977, NASA launched Voyager 1. It traveled for 35 years through space, moving at 17 kilometers per second, completely silent and autonomous. Its mission was to explore the outer planets and then continue outward toward interstellar space. In August of 2012, Voyager 1 crossed something, a boundary. After 35 years of travel, the probe registered a sudden, dramatic change in its readings. The boundary wasn't gradual. It wasn't fuzzy or diffuse or uncertain. The transition was sharp, immediate. The plasma density surrounding the probe jumped 40-fold in a matter of hours. The magnetic field didn't gradually shift. It changed direction almost instantly. The cosmic ray flux, which should have increased smoothly over time, spiked abruptly, as if the probe hadn't drifted slowly out of one region and into another, as if it had passed through a wall. Scientists published their findings in Nature, Science, and the Astrophysical Journal. Multiple papers documented the same phenomenon. The boundary of the solar system, what physicists call the heliopause, wasn't behaving the way the models predicted. One of the leading heliosphere physicists in the world, Gary Zank from the University of Alabama, described what Voyager had found in a now famous interview. He didn't call it a boundary, he called it a barrier. A barrier, a wall, a discontinuous transition between one state and another. And here's what nobody talks about. The Sumerians observed this 4,000 years before we had the technology to measure it directly. They saw the effects of this barrier on the cosmos itself. They watched the behavior of celestial objects at the boundary. They understood, through observation and calculation, that something was fundamentally different at that point, something that separated the inside from the outside. But why did they call it a wall that was built to keep something in? The answer lies in understanding what the Sumerians observed about the motion of celestial bodies. The planets and stars don't simply move randomly across the sky. They follow patterns, orbits, trajectories that repeat. They're contained within the system. They don't escape. They don't drift away into nothing. They stay. The Sumerians recognized something that we're only now learning to phrase in the language of modern physics. The structure that surrounds our solar system isn't just a boundary, it's a containment system, a structure that maintains the coherence of our cosmic region. Without it, things would behave differently. The structures we see, the planets, the stars, the organization we observe, wouldn't exist in their current form. The ancient texts describe the wall as being built to keep something contained. But what? The Sumerian cosmology describes a dynamic cosmos. There are forces, energies, movements. The wall keeps these organized, structured, in place. Now, the standard academic approach to this tablet treats it as mythology, metaphorical language attempting to describe concepts that ancient minds couldn't fully grasp. But consider the alternative interpretation. What if the Sumerians were describing something that was literally true, using the precise language available to them? What if they weren't trying to create religious narrative, but to preserve actual astronomical observation? There's a deeper layer here that most discussions miss entirely. The Sumerians explicitly stated that the wall was constructed, not that it evolved, not that it grew naturally over time, but that it was built, created, installed by an act of deliberate engineering. This raises a question that academic archaeology carefully avoids. Who built it? The texts don't specify. They describe the wall's properties and purpose, but they don't name the builders. This isn't unusual in Sumerian cosmological texts. Many of their most sophisticated theological documents preserve specific knowledge without claiming absolute authorship. They record what is known, what has been observed, what has been measured. The source of that knowledge is secondary to the knowledge itself. But here's what's significant. The Sumerians clearly distinguished between natural phenomena and constructed structures. They had language for things that occurred naturally and things that were built. When they described the wall, they used construction language, the same language they would use to describe building a temple or constructing an irrigation canal. This wasn't poetic improvisation. This was technical documentation. The implications of this interpretation are profound, and I want to be clear about what they are. I'm not suggesting that aliens built a wall around Earth. That's an oversimplification that misses the real significance of what we're looking at. What I am suggesting is that the Sumerians were documenting something physically real, something that exists in the structure of our solar system and that affects how cosmic forces behave within our region of space. Modern physics has given us a framework for understanding what they were describing. The heliosphere isn't just a fuzzy cloud of solar wind. It's an organized structure. It has boundaries. It has properties that affect what can exist within it and what lies beyond. Charged particles behave differently inside and outside. Radiation is modulated at the boundary. The magnetic fields are organized in ways that maintain coherence across the entire system. If you want to explore the deeper research on heliosphere physics and how it connects to ancient cosmological texts, I've included a comprehensive resource in the description and pinned comment that goes far beyond what we can cover here. The real question isn't whether ancient people imagined a wall around Earth. The question is why they so precisely described something that we've only recently confirmed through technology. The answer might be that they understood the cosmos through observation and mathematics in ways that we're only now validating through instruments and equations. And this brings us to the most overlooked aspect of this entire story. The Sumerians didn't just document the wall's existence. They documented that it was built, constructed, installed, not as an act of divine spontaneous creation, but as a deliberate engineering project. In their cosmological framework, they described various forces and entities that existed in the universe. Some were natural, some were constructed. The wall was constructed, and constructed structures have purposes, functions. They serve specific roles in larger systems. The Sumerian text states explicitly that the wall's purpose was not to protect those inside from external threats. That's the interpretation we've imposed on it. The actual Sumerian language indicates the wall was built to maintain internal structure, to keep things organized, in place, functioning within an ordered system. Think about what that means. The heliosphere, this barrier of plasma and magnetic field at the edge of our solar system, maintains the integrity of our cosmic neighborhood. Without it, solar wind would escape uncontrolled. Cosmic rays would penetrate differently. The planetary orbits themselves might behave differently under radiation bombardment. The entire system would be fundamentally altered. The Sumerians, through careful observation, recognized that something was maintaining this stability. Something was keeping the system organized, and they called it a wall that was built, constructed, put in place. The conventional academic response to this tablet has been to categorize it as mythological or metaphorical. But consider what happens when we take it literally, when we treat it as careful observation and measurement, expressed in the precise language available to ancient astronomers. The Sumerians become not primitive mysticians, but sophisticated observers documenting physical reality. They become scientists, using the tools and language at their disposal to record what they measured and understood about the cosmos. They become our predecessors in the pursuit of knowledge about the universe we inhabit. And the wall becomes not a mystical concept, but a physical phenomenon that we're only now learning to measure and understand in precise mathematical terms. The conversation about this tablet needs to shift, not towards supernatural explanations or alien builders. Those distract from what's actually remarkable, but toward a deeper understanding of what ancient civilizations could observe, measure, and understand about the physical universe. Toward recognizing that sophisticated scientific thinking didn't begin with the modern era. Toward acknowledging that the Sumerians, working with clay tablets and mathematics, were doing what scientists do, observing nature, collecting data, and preserving knowledge for future generations. The wall described in the AO 6020 tablet is real. It exists. We can measure it, we can see its effects. What we're only now beginning to do is understand how the Sumerians knew it was there, what they understood about its properties, and why they considered it significant enough to document in their most advanced cosmological texts. If you want to dive deeper into the physics of the heliosphere, the translation controversies surrounding the AO 6020 tablet, and how ancient astronomical knowledge compares to modern discovery, everything I've referenced and more is available in the description and the pinned comment. There's a detailed analysis there that will help you understand the full scope of what we're looking at here. This is exactly the kind of story that uncharted minds exist to explore. The intersections between what we thought we knew and what we're discovering was always there, waiting for us to develop the instruments to see it. The boundary between ancient wisdom and modern science is far more permeable than most of us realize. Thanks so much for watching this deep dive with me. If this kind of exploration resonates with you, stories that challenge conventional thinking and reveal the hidden connections in history and science, please hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you never miss when we upload a new video. Like this one if it made you think differently about something you thought you understood, and drop a comment below with what you're most curious about when it comes to ancient knowledge and modern science. I'll see you in the next video.